Take a seat, Rachel.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for waiting. I know it took a little bit longer than usual. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
So tell me a little bit about yourself. What are a couple hobbies that you have?
So I
Miss
really
Rachel?
like weightlifting. My husband and I go all the time. We love it.
Cool.
I also really like reading.
Oh, cool. What kind of books do you like reading?
Everything. I just love a book.
Cool. Have you heard of Brandon Sanderson?
Yes, I love Brandon Sanderson.
He's got some good stuff. Yep. He's a little
Yes.
weird dude, but good
My
stuff.
favorite. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. Cool. Well, I'm going to really quickly go. As you saw, we have this position here for management in my company, and we want to find someone who fits the
course.
qualifications here. I'm looking for a specific, obviously work ethic, leadership skills, they're able to critical think. So I'm going to take note of this. I hope you don't mind. That's why I have a board here on this piece of paper.
Yeah, perfect.
I'm going to ask you 10 questions, and then at the end I'll leave some room for you to ask a couple questions if you have any, okay?
Okay.
Cool. And if you have any along the way, just stop me. Be more than happy to answer. Okay? All right, so first, Rachel, obviously, tell me about yourself.
So I'm currently studying personal finance at UVU. For the last 2 years, I worked at Aspen Valley Wellness as an office manager. My duties there included strategizing with the owner on future business plans, decreasing accounts receivable, increasing revenue.
Cool. I was like, wow.
Right?
Oh, okay.
And hiring and training new employees.
Wow.
So
Okay.
some of the accomplishments that I've achieved in the last year, I actually helped the company decrease accounts receivable by $7,000 and actually helped them earn a profit for the first time, which was exciting.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's very big, actually. So, tell me about a time where you actually had to show some initiative, where it wasn't maybe there initially in the company or in the position before. What prompted you to get started, and what were the results?
Yeah. So actually, in this current position that I have, the office manager before me didn't really know what he was doing and neglected a lot of claims and didn't really collect from patients, and so the company wasn't earning money and it was in a really bad spot. And so I came on, and the owner honestly didn't know a lot of how to do the office manager role either. So I had to fix it, and I had to kind of learn how to do it as well.
I don't know how exactly all the responsibilities my manager does either, so I get
Yeah. So I had to come in, figure out what needed to be collected from who, whether clients or insurance, work it out, figure out the paperwork, all of that stuff. And so as a result, in the first month I was there, we increased revenue by $7,000.
Wow. So you pretty much showed, what that position really means, what it's supposed to be like. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. All right. So what was the most useful criticism that you've received from an immediate supervisor, and how did you personally embrace that feedback?
Yeah.
Or achieve, positive outcome from it?
Yeah, so in one of the jobs I worked at as a receptionist, I personally am very goal-oriented and kind of down to business, which is good but also bad. So my employer, my supervisor, pulled me aside and just let me know, hey, I know that talking about money is sometimes hard, but if you're more personable with them, it makes it easier and it makes them more comfortable, right? So I really took that to heart and started practicing smiling more and just kind of building rapport and getting to know the clients. So it made them and me more comfortable with talking about large amounts of money and collections.
Yeah, it's true. When you get to know someone, it makes it a lot easier to have normal, everyday conversation and any conversation, especially money conversation. Cool, I love that. So what do you feel you have to offer, that's above average for above average employee when it comes to accomplishing your daily responsibilities and goals? And then obviously to have a specific example of that.
Yeah. So I'm very much goal-oriented, like I said. I'm a hard worker, I'm a self-starter, and I will outwork anyone.
Cool.
So, a good example of that is just this position that I was telling you about, right? That example of jumping in and getting things done because that's what needs to get done.
Right. It sounds like whatever he was doing, hopefully he was working, right? But it was a slower process.
Yeah.
Either way, you made $7,000 that month. So
another good example, actually, I do have is with my other company.
Mm-hmm.
I was in charge of accounts receivable
Cool.
and insurance aging.
Uh-huh.
And so I took initiative and I created a process on how to do those claims.
Wow.
And ended up
Just by yourself? Or?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so out of the 10 companies, or so for Stonehaven there were 10 in the region, and so out of the 10 for 6 months straight we were top in insurance aging.
Wow. Okay, because of that new process.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. That's really cool. All right, so tell me about a time where you elevated the level of value you brought to a customer over time. So, what were the means of doing this? How did you accomplish this?
Yeah. So I started memorizing our patients' names and getting to know them, kind of like I learned from that other job, right?
Cool, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I've implemented it in this job, and I've tried to anticipate their needs, whether it be insurance things. As a courtesy, we call them their insurance claims, and if they're denied. And so I anticipate those needs, and that's helped build a personal relationship with people. The customers feel like they're important. They feel like they're welcome, and it's like a friendship kind of, and not just a business
Paying
relationship.
client. Yeah, exactly. More than just the money. I like that. I'm sure that made it easier for you and everyone around you, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like
Yeah.
follow that example.
So everyone, as a result of that, we've set kind of a precedent. So
yeah. Okay.
all of my employees under me have started doing that as well, and so it's kind of our culture here,
Cool.
as opposed to just a process.
That is really hard to do. Cultivating a good culture as a company, so that is impressive. So, can you recall a time where you were less than pleased with your own performance or the performance of your company, and what did you do about that?
Yeah. So when I first started this job, the process we had in place was we would ask the client to come in, get their insurance card, call then, or if they forgot their insurance card, we'd bill insurance, and then what ended up happening is that we would have to collect later, which is always harder than collecting up front, right?
Yes.
So I wasn't super pleased with that because it makes my job harder. So I changed the process, and we ended up asking for insurance cards beforehand so that we can call beforehand, so that when the client comes in, we already know what their copay is. So we went and did more ourselves as a courtesy to the client, but it helped our business because I don't have to collect further down the road.
Yeah, I can see that. It also set good expectations, I'm sure, for them, having to pay first and have that expectation for your crew members, like, okay, collect it first. So another question, describe a level of competitiveness, your personal level, and obviously a specific situation where your competitiveness actually helped you achieve better results, more than your peers.
Yeah,
or
so
for yourself.
I'm very intrinsically motivated, and so I do well with my own goals. All the examples before.
You in a sense, you're like a perfectionist. Don't take that the wrong way. That's awesome. We need that.
I just am always looking for the most efficient and organizational way to do something. So I'm always looking for progression. I'm looking for better processes so that things can improve. So always improving.
So you just set these goals yourself then?
Yeah.
Just self goal setter. Okay. Yep. Looks like shiz got done.
Yep.
Good job. All right. So as far as describing a time where you elevated the value you brought into a customer over time. Oh, I already asked you that. Sorry about that. Think of an example when one of your customers was not pleased with something that you or one of your fellow teammates did. And obviously with that situation, kind of explain it very briefly and how you recovered from it.
Yeah, so we had a situation once where the person making the appointment for the client didn't talk about payment at all. And so there was no expectation set. When they came in for the appointment, we also didn't talk about money. So they came in, the procedure was done, and then when we tried to collect afterwards, the client was very upset.
Yeah.
So what I ended up doing was talking with the client, figuring out why there was this disconnect, and then because it was our fault for not setting that expectation, that level of professionalism, I gave them a discount.
Wow.
So they were more than happy after that. They were fine paying the discounted rate and and kept coming.
Cool. Good. Perfect. That's awesome. Yeah, it's really hard to de-escalate some of those situations, and it sounds like you did very well. So now give me an example of a time where you successfully persuaded your peers to change their minds, follow recommendations, your personal recommendations potentially, and what was the specific situation and result of that?
Yeah, so actually the previous example is a really good example because after that event, we had a group meeting and we brought all the employees in and we did training.
Cool.
And we also did role plays about the situation.
We do those here too. That's awesome.
Oh, good.
I'm glad you do.
Yeah, they're very, very effective. I think the main thing that was helpful was that I really taught them the importance of it, but then also the consequences of not collecting that they might not have been aware of.
Yeah.
And then as a result, we were much better at collecting afterwards. Another thing that we did that kind of helped with the situation is we created a quarterly goal where if we collected this much percent of the client base, that we would have a reward at the end, and we ended up going bowling. So
that's very effective. Positive and negative reinforcement over any kind of punishment. Sounds like you did well, and also implementing role play. So I like that. Share a time where you were able to directly attribute your probing skills to solve a problem with a difficult customer.
Yeah. So we had a customer who wanted to come in, and because we had switched the process, I called on their insurance beforehand, and I was told that the procedure wasn't covered. Well, the client called and asked, and they were told that the procedure was covered. So I let them know what I had heard, and they said what they had heard, and they were like, well, I would like to go ahead and bill insurance for it. And I said, okay. And then they got the procedure done, and insurance came back, and they didn't pay. So then the client was upset. And so I had to not necessarily probe the client, but I had to probe insurance to figure out where that disconnect was and what was going on exactly. And then because of that, I was able to explain to the client, okay, so this is why they were telling us different things. This is actually the situation. And then after that, they were much happier with they're okay paying, and they understood what was going on.
Yeah, you found the discrepancy and you solved that problem by the sounds of it. Yeah, and that's easier said than done, so good job. So tell me about a time when you identified a new, unusual, different approach for addressing a problem or task, and how did you come to the solution, and what was the outcome?
So a recent problem that we had is we increased prices for a procedure.
Okay.
And the owner wasn't sure if it was increasing revenue or decreasing revenue because our actual appointments had gone down.
Oh.
So what I did is I decided to go back and add up the procedure and the total revenue for each month for the last 2 years up till now.
2 years worth. Wow.
Yeah, so I did that, and we were able to compare when we changed prices to how many appointments there were and the total revenue. And we found that while we increased the prices and the appointments were down, we were actually making the same amount of money. So instead of decreasing the prices again, we just increased the marketing so that we can get more people in the door.
Smart move. Awesome. Well, that is definitely a happy boss right there.
Yeah.
All right, so as far as those are all my questions I have for you. Do you have any kind of additional questions for me?
Yes, I do. So I saw on the application that this is a benefited position. I was just interested to know if you offer HSA contributions and if you guys match it if you do. So my contributions.
Yeah, great question. We actually do that. We will match your life insurance, IRA, and also HSA up to a certain amount. And my HR person can actually go over that with you. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And then my other question is, when can I expect to hear back from you about the position?
Great question. We actually, give me and Shonda 2 days. We'll get back to you in 2 days.
Okay, so fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, well, we get back to you really quickly here. We only have 2 more candidates, and think we have it pretty squared away as to whom we want to pick.
Okay.
So,
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you meeting with me. I'm really, really excited about this position, and I think I'd be a great fit with you and your team, and I'm excited to hear back from you.
I agree. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Rachel.
You too.
You have a good day.
You too.
The door is this way. Yeah, thank you. Please
Bye.
tell the person come in on the way in.